Hello, Alli Worthington. I feel like this is going to be a ridiculous conversation and I'm going to try to keep it professional or whatever.
That sounds.
um,
That's,
so, I'm super excited to be chatting with you in this very formal context of an interview. For those who don't know you, I'm just going to read kind of a bio and then I'm going to ask you to share a little bit more sort of off the cuff because I know that you're good at doing things off the cuff. Alli Worthington is a wife and mother of five boys, a stepdaughter, and a rescued dog. She lives outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and just about every flat surface in her house is taken up with a book, a piece of athletic equipment, Legos, or quite possibly some dog hair. She serves as the executive director of Propel Women, a leadership initiative founded by Christine and Nick Kane. She is also the author of Breaking Busy, an awesome, amazing book that came out this past year that everyone's been raving about, including me. She co-founded Blistum and Blistum Canada, the single largest international women's small business conference in the world. She also co-founded and has served as the CO, the Chief Creative Officer of Blissful Media Group, and it all started when she founded the magazine for women called Blissfully Domestic. Throughout these major events, she's helped thousands of men and women start successful businesses online. She was a consultant and strategist who has worked with and advised Fortune 500 companies and small businesses, from tech companies to your favorite household brands. And I think we met at Blistum, right? In maybe 2009 or 2010. That would be my guess.
we did. And I have this great picture of you and Kevin Carroll at
Oh,
one of our
really?
lunches. Yeah, and just out of the blue, you went up to him and said, I think was he a donor or supporter to your nonprofit?
Yeah, he randomly had supported Hope Runs, this small nonprofit I have out in Kenya, and I don't even know. And then I saw him at the event, and I was like, "What the heck's going on here?" It was just total coincidence, but I mean, it makes sense given his passion for sort of sport for development and stuff.
So yeah, that's how we met. It was great.
Awesome. Well, do you think so? We're going to talk kind of about purpose and how you found purpose and how you help others kind of find purpose today. And I wonder if you could sort of share a little bit more about sort of your background and give kind of an intro as it relates to purpose, maybe.
Sure. I have such an interesting background. Nothing in my background would say that I should be doing what I'm doing now, which I think is the beauty of what the internet's given us. There's no gatekeepers. We don't have to get permission to be successful. I spent 10 years as a stay-home mom, homeschooling my kids. And through a series of events, I got pushed into figuring out how to build an income online. I was already blogging, but just became obsessed with, okay, how do I turn this hobby into something that it can actually help my family? So what started for me as fun and then side income and then real income for my family morphed into doing things because I felt like I had a calling for it. So my first experience with turning my business and realizing my business was something that was helping me outlive my calling was in the middle of one year at Blistum, this big conference. I was standing at the side of the stage and there's 1,000 women in the audience, and there, I think Harry Connick Jr. was having a concert, and they're just having the best time after a day of learning business strategies and social media strategies, and these women are just having a blast. And it hit me, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to gather people together. I'm supposed to help them learn new things and to help them just have a wonderful time. That was this magic moment. And somebody took a picture. I still have it today. It's framed in my house of me randomly in the blue, just with my fist up in the air because I'm having that moment. And then someone took the picture. And so it's great to have this visual of the moment you realized, hey, I'm really supposed to be helping people. Okay, I'm not supposed to be finding all this success in business just to make money, just for kicks. I'm really in it to provide an experience and benefit for others.
Do you think, though, as you sort of look back over your past, do you think you sort of had that fist in the air moment at many different points? Or do you think you basically didn't have it until you were on the dance floor at Blistum or whatever?
I don't think I ever had it until then. I think that's about 2009 or so. And that was my first realization, like, I can do this. I can help people and we can all have a great time at it. I'm a big believer that we all have gifts and abilities inside of us that come out in different seasons and look different in different seasons. So when I was homeschooling my children, I love to teach them. I love to share information with them. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you've done strength finders and you know what your big strengths are.
Mm-hmm.
My number one strength is input. It is not sexy. It's boring. It's terrible. It means you want to gather all the information you can and categorize it. Basically, I'm like a walking Evernote, right? It's the worst. But that same passion inside of me to gather knowledge, it used to be in my living room with my family. Then it was with my kids. Then it was through blogging. Then it was an event company. Now it's through writing books and speaking. So it's that same gift that I've had all my life, but it looks different in every season. But it's always meant to be used to help other people.
And so talk about sort of what it looks like to do what you do now at Propel Women in relation to sort of this idea of, finding your purpose and your purpose now in 2016.
Yeah, well, with Propel, we really want to help women be as successful as possible, whether they're working, running their own company, career women, homeschooling kids, or working in the ministry, whatever it is that women do, because women, I think most women tend to live lives where we do a little bit of everything just in different times.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we love to provide resources to help women be successful in whatever season they're in, which is great. For me, I always focused on women and career before, but now, helping women who are in the ministry, helping women who are in job transition. That's really exciting to do through Propel.
And I guess one of the things that I find most interesting sort of about the conversation about purpose is that there's kind of two camps. There are folks that say you just need to be doing exactly what you were meant to be doing at all times. And then there are folks who say that's all well and good, but you also need to, do some things you don't like along the way. And I guess I'm just curious sort of how you think about those two camps, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, somebody said to me after Breaking Busy came out, somebody left a review and said, "Oh, you're one of those people that tells people to do nothing and just follow their passion." Well, my
Hmm.
daughter read one of those books and now she's bankrupt and divorced. And I went,
Hmm.
"Whoa, I'm not one of those people." I think the whole follow your passion argument is well intended, but it can result in really bad consequences.
Hmm.
We should, we don't, I would never tell someone to throw caution to the wind and go after their passion, because we should always channel our passions and our gifts into helping other people and being responsible. I had I had a friend, I guess 2 years ago, who decided to quit his job, start his own business because that was his passion. His passion was going to be bread making. He didn't know anything about business, but he read a lot of blogs about finding the passion, but he never actually did the hard work of preparing for it, of learning how to run a business, of all the boring, unsexy things that go along with being successful. And that didn't last long. He was soon back in the cubicle, and now he is actually learning how to run a business so he can live out his passion and enjoy life, but he has to do it responsibly. So that's a long way of saying I think the follow your passion crowd can be a little irresponsible sometimes.
Sure. Or they have some sort of safety net that they're not disclosing,
Oh,
a spouse or
yeah.
whatever it may be that can, right? Because I think
Yeah.
that's also a factor. I mean, so do you think your purpose?
Yes. I am supposed to help people live the life that they are created to live and not live a life that they think they should live. We all have messages coming in culturally that we need to be more, we need to do more, we need to achieve more. But until we get in touch with what we are created to do, what we're meant to do, those messages can just really kill us. That's why so many people, I think in our generation, live with this low grade discontent because we feel the pressure to be something we're not necessarily supposed to be.
Hmm. Have you felt that pressure?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the pressure to be the quote unquote perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect employee, um, it's constant. We have it all the time. We have it especially from social media. I love social media. Nobody loves social media more than me, but we all forget that we're all showing our best selves. I have a rule on social. If I'm angry or I'm depressed or frustrated, I'm not going to even allow myself to go near the computer because nobody wants to see me vent. But nobody wants to see my dirty laundry literally in my living room either. I'm going to share pictures of life when things are good. And I think that's kind of what social media is for. Instagram, everything's happy-go-lucky, everything's wonderful all the time. But if we forget that we are only showing our best selves, we can compare our lives to other people and feel bad about ourselves and start doing things that we're not actually meant to do and putting pressure on ourselves we're not meant to have. I mean, I grew up in a time where I was always reading Self magazine and Cosmo magazine and all these things where I grew up thinking I was going to be happily married and have 2 children and be an attorney and my thighs wouldn't touch and I would have an organic garden and then I would knit sweaters for the poor on the weekend. Like that's not life. You can't do it all. But that's really that's the expectation I had because I thought culturally that's just what women were supposed to do.
I think that's really interesting and powerful that you are basically linking the idea of comparison to getting you off sort of your own purpose. Because I think many of us, there was that great article, I think Shauna Nyquist wrote it a couple years ago, stop Instagramming your perfect life, right? And so many people have sort of heard this idea that, oh, everything's perfect on social media and isn't that a shame? But I think most of us think of it in terms of how that just sort of makes us compare ourselves to others and feel bad. And we don't think about how, well, it makes you compare yourselves to others and then it gets you off track.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a subconscious thing. I mean, more and more studies come out all the time that shows the more time you spend on Facebook, the less content you are in your own life. Because even though we can say, oh, I know I'm looking at highlight reels, subconsciously we're discontent.
Wow. So when you were doing the process of researching, writing, Breaking Busy, how did you kind of approach these issues in your own life? How did you work to, keep your purpose by trying not to let everyone else's lives sort of invade, I guess?
For me, I first went to the research to find out why in the world everyone was still busy if we have a million books on time management already, right? And so that was my big indicator that it's not a time management issue. There's more to it. Managing your time well is important, but bigger issues are the way we think, our mindset, the way we communicate with others, our thought patterns. So for me, I went to research and then I had to start breaking down in my own life the ways I've wasted just a ton of time and energy because of things like this. There's a story in the book where there was this great woman that I became friends with, and I was a movie buff. She was a movie buff. We wanted to go to movies together. She liked dark movies. I liked light movies, but I never told her because I wanted her to like me. So, it took me 2 years to tell her, and then she just laughed at me because she already knew. So and it's a silly story about going to see movies, but we do that sort of thing all the time. It's with our careers, with our friendships, where we live. We change who we are, who we were created to be, and what our purpose is in this world. We change it and we edit it constantly so we can get other people to like us. It really it robs us of our destiny.
So these days with Propel Women, how do you try to keep women on track?
The big key is not to compare your calling to other people's calling. It's to stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. And culture tells us we should do X, Y, and Z. We should, you should be married by a certain time. You should have this many kids. And, have mercy if you have five children, because everyone thinks that that's just insane, or don't have too many kids, or live here, don't live there. It's really identifying what you're called to do, what you're passionate about, how you can help people, and then go toward that confidently.
Do you think you were able to figure out what you were called to do by through some sort of process of self-reflection, or was it through the process of doing it, or how did you figure it out? How did you get to that moment on the dance floor at Blistum with a fist in the air?
I wish I could say here's a magic formula for it,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but it wasn't. It
That's
was
Irish
literally,
also.
yeah, it was literally fist in the air going, all these things I do, I can help people. This is great. I'm going to do whatever I can do to help people for the rest of my life. I mean that's what I thought I was going to do. I thought I would just run Blistum for the rest of my life, but through walking away from Blistum and then doing other things, having a consulting company, and now working with Propel Women, I've learned the lesson that those same passions, that calling, will look different in different seasons of life.
Hmm.
It's the same calling, it's the same purpose, but it just looks different in different seasons.
Hmm. And so tell us a bit about, okay, so you had this amazing experience at Blistum, you were kind of on top of the world, and then you stopped. And now you do other stuff which you also love, but what was going on? Was there stuff at Blistum you didn't like? You felt like you weren't pursuing your calling? What was going on at Blistum?
So Blistum started in 2008. 2009 was my year of this is amazing, on top of the world. I know what I'm supposed to do in this world, and I'm running after it as hard as I can. And then in 2012, I was at the Catalyst Conference in Orange County. They'll be so happy that I mentioned the Catalyst Conference, because they're always like, "Don't tell the story." Um, Praying about what the theme for the next year should be. Blistum wasn't an event that had any faith element involved, but I was praying about, who to bring and what everyone should talk about, how we can help people. And I heard clear as day to quit, just two words, quit Blistum. And I was mad, I was shocked, I was
I
terrified.
mean, let's back up. So for
Yeah.
folks who
Oh
aren't
yeah.
necessarily Christian, are you
Yeah.
someone who, every day God is telling you to do things, Allie, and you listen?
No, I wish I was. That would be so handy. If I could just get a memo from God every day, it would be great. So, uh, yeah, no, I wish I was. If he could start doing that, it'd be great. So, but I do. I heard, and it wasn't audible. It was just this. It was just these two words, like in my spirit, is the only way I can describe it. And when you hear it, it was so shocking and so challenging. I just knew. And so I set up all these different signs that would have to happen. And I decided I was going to fly home and make my husband make the decision, because I was the breadwinner for our family. He had just retired from his job from running a hospital 6 months earlier. So in my mind, I'm going to fly home. I'm going to tell my husband. He's going to be like, sure, who needs a solid income in this great business you've built?
We only
Let's
have 6 children.
Yeah, this is easy. Let's go. And so I tell him everything, and he's like, "Well, you better get on it, like shut it down." And I just decided that I was going to, but I needed to set everything up first. Like I wasn't going to just walk away. So it took me a year to walk away, and I knew I needed to walk away. I knew it needed to shut down. I knew I needed to move on, but I was just so terrified of what was going to happen in the future, and terrified of disappointing everybody, because this was such an event that everyone loved and everyone came back. I mean, we were doing over $1 million a year just in sponsorship alone. So financially, it was going to hurt a lot of people for it to close down.
So,
Uh, yeah.
I mean, so let's just dig in for a second into this sort of financial thing. I mean, you walked away from something that was very successful outwardly and inwardly in many ways, right?
Yeah. It was
How
great.
you're an advocate for just stopping things that pay your bills, or what happened
I
there?
know, that's the crazy thing. That's why I'm always telling people, don't do it. Like I did it, but don't do it, because it can go so bad. Um, and people will still comment, they'll share pictures from the event on Facebook or Instagram or wherever and say, I still miss it. And my response is, I miss it every day because I still do, even though it was the right thing to walk away career-wise for me. I didn't tell anybody back then, just the co-founder of the event and a few friends. I probably told you that it was God telling me to walk away, because if you're a person of faith, that can still be like, oh, you're playing the God card. Like, you can't prove that. And if you're not a person of faith, you just sound crazy,
Yeah,
you know? So it was just like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. Great.
wow.
But for me, I had to get over the fact I had to disappoint a lot of people um, to be able to take this next career path.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. That's really amazing. And so, is it obvious to you now why that happened? Or no, let me ask a different question. How quickly did it become obvious that you had made the right choice?
It didn't become obvious that I made the right choice for a long time. I mean, financially, I was okay because I was able to start consulting. And I joke that anybody who's not sure what to do next career-wise, you just consult, because boom, that's what you do. So I hung out my shingle on the internet and said, okay, let's do it. And business came. So financially, I was fine. But it didn't seem like it. I was still super disappointed that I needed to walk away from my events company. I loved doing what I did. I still loved helping people with consulting, but it felt like a big disappointment to me, honestly.
And then in your book, you talk about a moment where, you sort of had your coffee and you're at your computer in the morning and you've got all these great clients. You have more work than you can handle. You've got a waiting list of clients, really. You're hanging up your shingle on the internet, worked really well, and yet you don't really feel like things are quite right.
Yeah, I was miserable, actually. And I just put my head down on the table that morning and cried and told God that I was mad at him. I was mad that I had to give up my company. I was scared constantly that I was going to lose all my clients overnight and not be able to support my family. And he spoke to me again the second time in that year. He saves it for the big things. And he said, get up and live like you believe I'm going to take care of you. And that was just this shocking moment of, what? You're not expecting it, but I was having a crisis of faith. If I'm this person of faith, do I believe that if I obey what God is telling me to do in my life, which doesn't happen that often, he's not just sending memos all the time. So if he's going to actually spend the time to tell me something, I better do it. If I'm going to say that I believe that, I need to learn how to trust him. And I need to learn to trust when it doesn't make sense. So that was my first big mindset shift, that I needed to trust him when I wasn't in control of the situation. Because with consulting taught me I wasn't necessarily in control. All my clients could pop up and close down their businesses the next day, or, who knows? So I had to be able to be confident in my decisions and be able to trust him even when I was scared. Now, it wasn't until about a year and a half later when Christine Kane, who's also the founder of the A21 campaign, literally rolls into Nashville and takes me out to dinner and says, I need you to run this new ministry startup I'm building. And I said, absolutely not. No way. I said, I've never had a job. I've seen my disc profile. I would be a terrible employee. You don't want any of this. Right. And after, fighting about it for a while, I finally prayed about it and then decided that I did want to have the opportunity to do it. And now I look back and realize, had I not shut down Blistum, had I not done the hard thing when it didn't make sense, I never would have had the ability to say yes to this opportunity. And this opportunity lets me help women and bring them great resources and tools on a much larger scale than I was ever doing at Blistum.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, it's amazing being able to look back on it, but it was just really messy and hard when I had to live through it.
But that's often how it is, though, right?
Yeah.
Or that's often even more than just how it is, it's how it should be, because if it's all clean and easy, then we don't really think we fought for anything or we earned what we got in many ways.
And from the outside, it often looks easy. Because I'm not someone who is going to just share, on Facebook, everything I'm going through. which again adds to the whole sharing your perfect life on social media. I tend to share things when things are all complete. And then I'll be like, let me tell you about this hot mess of a season I just got out of. But also when you're a consultant and you're helping people run their business, it's not exactly professional to go on Facebook and go, and I'm freaking out. I have anxiety. Let's discuss.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. There's a branding issue there, right?
It is. It is. If I was my own consultant, I'd have to be like, let's talk about your social media presence.
It's really funny. So as we kind of wrap up here, I'm curious if you could sort of give folks, and I'm sure you do this pretty frequently with Propel Women, sort of one kind of takeaway about purpose, something that you think has really been fundamental to helping you kind of find yours and helping you clarify yours over the years?
Sure. I think our purpose, like I said earlier, it's always at the core about helping other people. We are, as humans, we are created to help other people. So whatever business you're in, ministry, whatever you're doing, nonprofit, whatever it is, at the core, it's always going to lead to being a benefit to other people in their life. And like we were talking about earlier, our purpose looks different in different seasons. So for me, it looked different when I was teaching kids, to blogging, to events, to writing books. But it always has that similar thread of sharing what I've learned in hopefully an interesting and informative way.
And so for folks who don't already read all the things that you post online, where can people find you?
I'm at alliworthington.com. And on Instagram and Facebook, it's Alli Worthington. And on Twitter, it's just Alli, Alli. And on Amazon, you can look me up and find Breaking Busy there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this. This is great.
Thanks for having me, Claire. This is great.